Yeah, we just hit 20 minutes and change. So now we're going on to the next question. See, I pause a little bit so we can edit it for YouTube. Shaddix writes in, a consistent theme on your shows is that MMA is still an evolving sport. I like the idea. I like the idea that I have themes on the 5 Star Radio broadcast. Anyways, Shaddix continues. The most recent evolution appears to be Machida-style striking adjustments to stance and timing. Predict the next innovation and evolution, and will it be in response to the karate-style influence? Well, one, I do not think it'll be in response to the karate-style influence. I wrote a column for Fighters Only magazine, I think it's actually the German edition, but it's one of the European editions for Mr. Oliver Cobb. And I talked about, basically there's this idea that, Lyoto Machida proved that karate can work in MMA. He did. Lyoto Machida proved that Lyoto Machida can make anything work in MMA. I think Machida's background could be hopscotch and I don't know, foursquare. People know foursquare is the ball. Hopscotch and foursquare and jump roping, and he'd still make it look dangerous. I mean, people will be like, look at that jump roping technique. The way he skips and moves, it's amazing. Oh! Machida's just a special athlete using karate, absolutely. And there are real legitimate karate techniques that Machida's using. His stance is where he leans back and all that jazz. But at the end of the day, he's a special athlete. And if his background in Muay Thai, he'd probably be just as effective. In order for a style to really show any kind of credibility, in my opinion, it has to demonstrate that a number of people from a number of walks of life, big and small, every body type, can use the style with some success in the sport of MMA. You look at jiu-jitsu, my argument would be, look at BJ Penn and Rico Rodriguez, both using jiu-jitsu, both successful in MMA. You look at wrestling, everybody from a Matt Lindland to a Brock Lesnar to a Randy Couture, all using wrestling. Throw in a Clay Guida if you want. These guys are different type of bodies, right? You look at striking. Dwayne Ludwig is a small, scrawny, kind of skinny dude. Mark Hunt, big and fat. Crow Cop, Anderson Silva, all using basically Muay Thai kickboxing, all with success. Machida's using the karate, and Machida's using the karate, and that's pretty much it. So I'm not too worried about the Machida-style karate giving people problems in the future. I don't think we're going to see a lot of people doing katas or, crane shit or anything like that. I think Machida's a unique and rare case, and the truth is you're going to be playing the odds. You've only got so long you can train during the course of a day. You're going to stick with the formula. You're going to stick with the arts that have been tried and true and proven to work, especially when you heard Figure4Online.com, where you can listen to all this stuff, all your MMA goodness on a weekly, daily, hourly, minutely basis. Minutely? I don't know. But as far as what the next evolution of the sport is, we've seen, we've basically now seen we're at the point where we have the elite level strikers in MMA. The Crow Cops, the Silvas, the Dwayne Ludwigs. We're seeing guys like Paul Daly coming out. We've obviously had the elite level wrestlers forever. Randy Couture. We're going to see a few more of those. And obviously, Jiu-Jitsu has been the basis, the backbone, the cornerstone of the sport of MMA pretty much since the beginning. The MMA basically grows out of Jiu-Jitsu, at least in the United States. And even you could argue in Japan, where it grows out of submission wrestling, which is, like submission wrestling, judo, Jiu-Jitsu, they're all just, arose by any other name, right? I really believe that the future of the sport is going to be amateur wrestlers. It's all going to be which amateur wrestler can pick up striking and jiu-jitsu the fastest. Because, you can be a great jiu-jitsu guy, and there's always going to be guys like Nogueira who are great jiu-jitsu and great boxing, and they're going to be competitive, no doubt about it. But I think that they're always going to run into the problem of they can't dictate where a fight takes place, and the wrestlers can. So the wrestlers will probably more often than not beat those guys, because they'll be able to be like, all right, look, I can't beat this Nogueira guy on the ground, I can beat him standing. Or I can't beat, this Anderson Silva guy standing, I can beat him on the ground. So you're going to need that wrestling background and that base. And I think just not only are the skills that you learn in amateur wrestling so important, the mindset, that grinding, grueling hours of practice and the repetitions that they do. I mean, they talk about how jiu-jitsu guys, they learn a technique, they drill it 5 times, and they kind of spar with it. Whereas the wrestlers drill a technique 500 times. That's just what they do. They drill things over and over and over and over and over again, just as I just talk over and over and over and over and over again. So that's what you're going to see. I especially think that at the lighter weight classes, the wrestling is going to be more and more important and more dominating. When you get at the heavier weight of wrestling, the skill is just not as good. It's just like anything, any combat sport. The lighter guys are more skilled. The heavier guys are not. The heavier guys, a lot of times, a lot more strength, And I thought this was a good play role, but a lot of it's just the strength. And the truth is that you're not seeing the guys pull off the incredible switches and the go behinds and the duck unders and this and that. I mean, they're doing things, but not really nearly to the same degree as you see at the lighter weights. I mean, if you don't really watch amateur wrestling, just look at pro boxing. That pro heavyweight boxing has always been guys kind of moving in, they throw big bombs and stuff like that. Whereas the little guys are guys pumping the jab, boom, 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 boom. They're slipping things here, they're coming over top, they're ducking under, they're hitting that, boom. So I mean, you always have seen the more skilled guys at the lighter weights. And I think why that's going to be more important in MMA than any other sport is that at the heavyweight level, a heavyweight non-wrestler like a Nogueira will need to learn less in order to compete against the heavyweight wrestlers. They'll need to learn a few basic sprawls and some underhooks and how to dig inside like that. And as long as they can match those big guys with the strength, they'll be able to do okay. Whereas at the lighter weights, that wrestling with the technique that those guys have, you look at a Clay Guida, for instance, or a Diego Sanchez, is going to be so overwhelming that I think that the technique is going to make such a big difference. And whereas the heavyweights have, years and years of experience, but it's mostly years and years of being a big guy pushing people around with their muscle, you can learn to be a big guy and push someone around with your muscles. Whereas, take a guy like me, I can train jiu-jitsu for the next 5 years. I can train Muay Thai kickboxing for the next 5 years. I'll be, my 30 years old, 31 years old, and I'll be, competent at those arts. Maybe even good at them. But because I didn't start wrestling when I was 6, I will always be 20 years behind every wrestler out there. I mean, all those wrestlers, they're not starting at 20. You start jiu-jitsu at 20 and you can be freaking world-class at 25. You can be a phenom at 30, right? I mean, you can be awesome at that. Jiu-jitsu and striking, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, whatever you want to say, those are arts that people tend to start later in life. Whereas a wrestling, at least here in the United States, people start that stuff when they're 6 years old, and they're doing it their whole lives. And so again, by the time they're 20 years old, if two 20-year-olds walk into the gym, one of them's been wrestling for the past 15 years, the other one hasn't. Even though they both may learn 5 years of of jiu-jitsu at that point, they'll both be 5 years jiu-jitsu experts. The other guy would be 20 years of wrestling at that point, then with 5 years of jiu-jitsu. You're just never going to be able to catch up on that. And I think the wrestlers are always going to have that advantage. Because I don't think you're going to see guys starting jiu-jitsu at younger ages. I don't think you're going to see too much of the kickboxing, to be honest. You see it in Thailand, and those guys are done by 14, 15, and all that shit. In the United States, I just don't think there's going to be as much of a market. I think too many parents, in my opinion, rightfully so, don't want their kids learning to kick somebody in the head. Karate is one thing because we all know it's bullshit. Teach your kid Taekwondo, and they go, whoa, they do a little flip, and they get a bronze medal and a turquoise belt to make them look special. Jiu-jitsu, I think kids can learn. Again, you're not really hurting anybody. It can be very gentle. It is called the gentle art for a way. You can do it without really getting beat up. It's kind of like wrestling. You can do wrestling and it'll wear on you, but it kind of wrestling and jiu-jitsu, wrestling especially, but they will toughen somebody up. Whereas striking arts beat people up. Striking, you're getting punched, you're getting hurt. So you're getting your brain rattled. So I'm always a big proponent, I think, of the amateur wrestling just being such a strong base. There's just going to be which wrestler can learn everything best. And more than that, because we got a minute and 15 seconds before our next commercial break, if you will. As far as what the next evolution is going to be within MMA, I really think it's going to be learning how to change everything. Right now we got this idea, and those of you on the webcam will be able to see what I'm doing now for once. But we have this idea that you stand like this, right? And you strike and you come back. You strike, you come back. And everybody's learning to strike like boxers strike, right? Because that's how boxers strike. And they're learning how to shoot like wrestlers shoot, because wrestlers keep their hands down. So they're striking, strike. They're thinking, aha, I'm gonna strike, boom, boom, boom. Aha, I'm doing this. I'm doing my punching and my kicking and all that jazz. Oh, now I want to wrestle. Then it becomes stop striking, start wrestling. See, to me right now, it is not one art. The future to me is MMA. It'll be one discipline. The wrestlers will unlearn their bad wrestling habits. The jiu-jitsu guys will unlearn their bad habits. And the strikers will unlearn their bad habits. But more than just unlearning bad habits, they'll learn new techniques. Techniques that only work in MMA. For example,